The market rally since the U.S. President's Liberation Day tariff announcement continues, stronger than many might have anticipated. To get some insight into what's going on, let's go to Bruce Campbell in Kelowna, BC, President, Portfolio Manager at Stonecastle Investment Management. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me on today.
Did you expect the comeback that we've seen? It continually seems to surprise people.
Well, I'm sure there's not too many people that would have thought, that first week of April that we would see markets hitting record highs in this short period of time. So, no, it surprised me. I think it surprised a lot of investors for that matter.
Okay, do you think that people are justified in their enthusiasm, or are they over-enthusiastic at this time?
Well, there was an awful lot of uncertainty when we had the tariffs first announced. And since then, there's been, so much as far as what's been back down from those tariff levels. Certainly, there's still lots of negotiation going on. But if you look at the numbers from this past quarter, that are just kind of being released right now, they were actually really quite strong. And, there's still some uncertainty out there as far as what it'll mean for tariffs and for the consumer. But for the most part, the earnings have been quite strong. 60% of companies, around 60% of companies have beat this quarter, which is great to see. That was with the impact of the uncertainty of tariffs for that whole quarter.
And we've had this new tariff round kick in. The rates have been announced for many, many countries. Canada is facing that 10% uptick to its rate now at 35%. How much of a kick are you expecting from this?
Certainly it's going to have an impact, right? And if they stay at these levels, that's where, you could see the next quarter or the quarter after it's starting to take its impact. But so far, that hasn't been the case. And keep in mind, one of the things that, everyone talks about with these tariffs is the level of the tariffs, but it's not on that retail price. It's on the wholesale price, or it's on the cost of production. So, the example that I heard was, you think about like a pair of Nike running shoes at $150, that tariff might only be $5, $6, $7, which still has an impact on the consumer for sure. But it's not like it's $15, $25, or $30 that, a lot of people throw around. So it will have an impact, but also we don't know where the final tariff levels are going to shake down. I think everyone that looks at this is, quite aware of negotiation of, President Trump and how he works. And certainly it's always kind of an interesting day in the markets when you're watching his tweets and his news and his press releases.
We had jobs numbers out today as well. I'm wondering whether you see some of that tariff noise now hitting the Canadian economy. Folks that thought the job numbers would come in positive, they obviously did not. It was a bigger hit. Is this sort of where it's going to go, you think, over the next few months?
Well, certainly that's the concern, right? Is that, we started to see some lower job numbers. So we also know, everyone's aware of this huge mortgage refinancing that's going to happen over the next couple of years and what impact that'll have on the consumer. So there is a lot of people who are nervous for sure. And, if you were completely domestically invested in companies that were relying on the consumer, it could certainly be challenging.
Okay, let's talk about gold for a moment. We've seen it spiking. Of course, it's had a lot of volatility since the start of the year in response to some of the announcements coming out of Washington. I'm wondering what you expect continuing forward. People aren't reacting. Investors aren't reacting as much to what's coming out of Washington as they did even 3 or 4 months ago.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard in some cases to take seriously what happens with the first announcement, because it seems like there's always a rebuttal or, a change in the policy. And there's lots of, different acronyms that are being thrown around about the president and the government down there. So certainly that has had an impact, though. And we continue to see gold move higher. It's, probably the sector that's had the best returns, and some of the stocks that have had the best returns on the TSX this year. And interestingly enough, it's been very strong. And we're heading into that seasonal time where it tends to outperform as well. So we're heading into the fall. We do tend to see fairly strong performance from gold, which would equate to probably higher gold prices as well for the stocks. Let's
talk about some of the stocks you like right now. MDA Space did report this past week. What do you like about MDA Space moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the numbers were very strong, and their guidance, continues to be very strong. If you've heard the CEO speak, I mean, he talks about space and kind of the space frontier and how that's changed so dramatically in the last few years, and it's because of the cost of sending satellites, sending rockets, sending equipment into space. It's come down so much that it's opened up this huge market, and more people are getting involved into space. And so they're just going to continue to win more and more business, if it's from, full constellations, if it's from parts, if it's from satellites. And so we really think that while it trades at a fairly significant multiple here, that that valuation makes sense considering the growth rate that they've had and that that they'll have over the next few years. The one thing about this is that, it can be a little bit lumpy because, their production is in flat line. It can move up and down. And obviously the contracts are also, kind of be lumpy. So you have to be aware of that and probably have a core position and perhaps trade around that, or just be prepared to hold it for a longer term.
You also like Kraken Robotics. Tell me about that company.
Yeah, I mean, they're the ones that they do a lot of underwater equipment. So sonar, they do some unmanned drones, they do some batteries. And this is kind of that next frontier as far as the military goes, and a lot of unmanned vehicles. So far we've had a lot in the air, but now really that focus is turning to the sea for sure. And I mean, in the past, those are giant submarines, and there's several companies out there who are making smaller unmanned sea vessels that can go underwater and patrol and provide safety, and Kraken provides a lot of those parts. And so over the next few years, that's going to be a fairly significant growth market. They've also had strong, fairly strong numbers in the last couple of years here. It does trade again at a fairly significant multiple, but if you look at it, versus its growth rate and what's expected, then we should continue to see higher prices over time.
Bruce, I've got to leave it there with you. I'm out of time, but Bruce Campbell is the president portfolio manager at Stonecastle Investment Management. Thanks for his time.